What I am an expert at is infrastructure. And guess what? This is completely
The summer of 2025 saw the streets of Boston more chaotic than ever. And in August, sadly, that chaos resulted in death when a pedestrian was struck and killed by a man on an e-bike. In this exclusive footage obtained by Pedal Safe Boston, the driver appears to blow right through a red light and crash into a man who was one of many people in a crosswalk. These people assume there's safety in the crosswalk. But in 2025, if you're in Boston, don't assume anything. The city of Boston's entire approach to the goal of getting people on 4 wheels to make the switch to 2 wheels may have been well-intentioned, but it was not well-planned. And that is why construction magnate and Boston resident Jay Cashman got involved. Cashman, an avid cyclist himself, created Pedal Safe Boston, a project meant to ensure that city infrastructure works for everyone: pedestrians, drivers, and cyclists. Now, any city would be extremely fortunate to have such a global builder and contractor offer to use his tools and skill set to help create the greatest bike lane system in the world. But there's an obstacle: Mayor Michelle Wu. Even after the tragic death in the Back Bay and a scathing report conducted by her own administration, which panned her bike lane planning, she seems, well, disinterested. So on election day, we went to Boston's North End to ask her why.
Hi, Mayor Wu. How are you? As you know, a man was killed in the Back Bay by an e-bike.
I think we should go in first.
And you'll answer our questions when you come out?
Yes, I'll answer questions.
Thank you.
The 30-day bike lane review came out about a month or two ago. We haven't really seen an official response. Can you give that now? Your official response?
That was my official response in terms of the review that was put forward. And so in a number of different intersections and different corridors where work had already been done, after much community process, we have received that feedback from residents and tweaked certain places here and there where we heard direct feedback about changes that needed to be made, whether it was along the corridor in Mass Ave or other places on Boylston Street or in different neighborhoods across the city. And so that is the official response.
And she said, the report is our action, okay? No, that's your inaction, okay, is what we talk. This difference between action and, well, your inaction can be your action, okay, but that's inaction and action, okay? So it doesn't really qualify in the real world. Does that make sense? Inaction and action? It's actually a Buddhist philosophy, okay? Is inaction never basically makes the problem go away, ever.
Mayor, I just want to clarify, the 30-day bike review, you said that you've addressed those, and so have all the repairs and fixes and improvements based on that review, have they all been made? Is that completed now?
There were some short-term and long-term recommendations proposed in there. So some of the short-term ones are done already. Some of the long-term ones are in progress. And much of the feedback that we heard from community members was that the process itself should be more responsive to understanding all of the various needs and how they would be balanced from the very beginning. We are also looking at curbside management. Chick-fil-A, for example, which has been a real source of challenge in that area near Copley Square with pickup, drop-off, takeout. They are now working with an off-site kitchen, so many of their takeout and deliveries will leave from a different location than right there in that very congested area. So anywhere we can cut down double parking or even triple parking in our streets, that helps for traffic as well.
We were just there at Chick-fil-A today, and there was this was like the Autobahn for e-bikes. Are we going to have more rules for e-bikes?
We passed an ordinance through the City Council and have been working with the food delivery companies directly to ensure that the data that they have can be shared so we know exactly where illegal behavior is happening, and that we have been prioritizing this throughout the summer and throughout the last year. Boston Police has taken hundreds of illegal scooters and motorized bikes off the roads, and we're going to keep up making sure that our streets have to work for everyone, and first and foremost, they have to be safe.
Thank you, everybody.
You know, politicians, it's all in the way you tell the story. It's true. She did fix something, okay? She fixed a bus lane, and she fixed this over here. So at least that's a beginning.
Hi, Mayor. Well, thank you. Yes, as you know, a man was killed by an e-bike in the Back Bay on Dartmouth Street last month in August. Have you investigated the where he was hit remains completely the same? There's been no changes. There are plans to make it safer back there?
Anytime there's an incident that takes place, there's a full investigation that happens, and whether from the police department on whether there was any safety issues that need to be addressed, or in this case.
Jay noted that with politicians, it's all in the way you tell this story. When we were out and about talking to Mayor Wu, we noticed that it's also a matter of which stories the politician wants to tell. Our question about the fatality in the Back Bay was responded to with a lot of words. Some very fancy, but mostly a canned humdrum of prepackaged and carefully crafted spin. But when another reporter asked her about a national story, they got a very different Michelle Wu. Excited, animated, poignant. This was a story she wanted to tell.
250 years ago, the residents of Boston stood up when another tyrant was coming in and trying to tell us how to take care of our own. This is what our city stands for, this is who we are, and we're going to continue to make sure our residents are cared for, are supported, and most of all are safe, because we've been making a lot of progress on that, and we're going to keep going.
Based on the fact that Michelle went shooting off her mouth, okay, with Trump, we're not going to get any federal relief here.
This federal administration is making hardworking, tax-paying, God-fearing residents afraid to live their lives. A city that's scared is not a city that's safe. A land ruled by fear is not the land of the free.
Sometimes you eat the bear and sometimes the bear eats you. Well, if you go and poke the bear, okay, he's going to turn around and eat you. Okay, now, Michelle didn't have to come on there and tout sanctuary cities. I mean, she didn't have to go on there, because anybody who basically attacks Trump, okay, he attacks them back. Now, I don't think we should kowtow to Donald Trump, okay, but we don't want to excite something. Is that if you got a bully, the best thing to do is ignore him, okay, it'll go away. Okay, don't engage with them. That's you don't win in a fight, because he doesn't care. So why instigate a fight? There's lots of ways to win a battle, okay? And it isn't always direct confrontation, He's only going to be there for another 3 years, okay? And in the last year, he won't be, maybe even in a year from now, if the House and the Senate flips, or I guess, if they flip, okay, then he'll be even less potent, okay? And anyways, I just don't get it.
Boston es tu hogar. Boston, 这la caillou. 这是你的家. This is our city.
Decisions.
What's our Marcia Gray? Quinn. Just looking at it on the screen. Who are you voting for?
I can't tell you. It's not appropriate. Oh, Popo, how you doing?
No, you just give her the sticker,
Oh, sorry.
and then when she checks you off, then you put your ballot in there. Don't bend it, because it won't go through the machine as easily. And just wait till it says ballot cast.
After Jay's voting was done and his social call over, it was time to reprise his role as project manager and have a thorough discussion with a woman who's made Boston's Back Bay her business for nearly 5 decades. She was helping make this neighborhood's streets flourish way back when our current chief of streets was watching Sesame Street.
Well, I'm a long-term resident of the city, and I moved to Boston in 1983. I've been the head of, having worked for a number of different nonprofits, including in Downtown Crossing for a business organization. In 2000, I became the president of the Back Bay Association. And I have a lot of understanding about our mission, which is to improve, promote, and protect the Back Bay neighborhood, especially through a business lens. When it came to the working with the Wu administration, I did understand that there was a goal to be, I think the word is disruptive, and really try to change how city operations were happening. So when I met with Yasha Franklin Hodge, he said, we're thinking about a bike lane on Boylston Street. And representing the businesses, I said, there is capacity on Boylston Street, and we should certainly look at it and see what is possible. So we were expressing a true openness to the inclusion of a bike lane, some skepticism that we held, which had to do with the fact that it's an extremely porous street. There's a lot of people needing curb access for business loading or to access a store or pick up, drop off, like, etc. A lot of pedestrians. The largest user of Boylston Street is actually pedestrians. So we were very focused on that. And so we then, agreed that they were going to look into a bike lane for Boylston Street. And our board members said, we want to make sure that the through capacity on Boylston Street is maintained no matter what, at least 2 lanes. And someone sent me a screenshot from the city's website that indicated there was going to be 1 through lane on Boylston Street and a dedicated bus lane and a dedicated bike lane and a very unexpected plan fully baked to install, all of that new infrastructure with very little study. And then I would say that the PS to that is a severe downgrading for pedestrians and pedestrian crossings in terms of the pedestrian crossing timings in order to make it sort of a faster throughway for bikes. So all of that came into our concern that we then launched over a year of emails and letters and meetings expressing our true concern about what was going to happen.
And the guy who's they call the chief of streets. He is he's a pawn in this thing. He really doesn't make these decisions. He's an operations person. He goes out and takes care of what is decided at the upper executive level. Okay, just like my company. If something's happening, I basically okay the master plan. Okay, and basically I monitor it. So Yasa is that his name?
Yeah.
Yasa is so Yasa. It's just to me, he's just like a young, enthusiastic person who believes in what he's doing. I think he doesn't understand really the infrastructure, and he's trying, but I wish he would try someplace else. I mean, what did they change? You've basically made recommendations and different things, and does any of your recommendations ever come to fruition? If there is, I want to hear about them.
Okay, there was one recommendation that we made, and it was a very strong one.
Okay.
And that was when we saw the plan, we encouraged the city to hold off on implementing the dedicated bus lane. We were extremely concerned about the introduction of such, new intersections, new bike lane, new dedicated bus lane. And what they did was they installed it.
Well, so wait, you said that you asked them not to install, and they installed it?
And then they took it out. Well, here's how I look at it. The bus lane was problematic because it wasn't needed. Buses were not being forced to queue whatsoever on Boylston Street almost ever. The bike lane that was installed, they really needed to get out a ruler because bike lanes are generally 60 inches wide or 60 inches wide, and they installed it on Boylston Street at 183 inches wide.
Yeah, I know.
No,
but
yeah.
But the thing is,
no, 83 inches wide. The way I look at it, it's like in our bodies, we have arteries, we have veins, and we have capillaries. The city put bike lanes on capillaries instead of deciding which the arteries would be, which the veins would be.
Any jackass can knock down a barn door. It takes a carpenter to build one.
I think when it came to the bike lanes, I think there was a true priority for one user over and above every other user. Even if we support the one user, we also, have to support pedestrians, the largest demographic user in the Back Bay. And we also have to make sure that the underlying city is running and that people can get where they need to go. And all of that, because the Chief of Streets was such a bike connoisseur, that got out of whack. And we need to get it back in whack.
I don't need to blame it on this guy, Yasa. Look at any big move, this is a big move, okay, is that comes from the top. Okay, is I'm responsible for anything happening. If somebody gets killed in a Cashman job, I'm responsible, and I better basically go and figure that out and make sure it never ends up happening again. That's my responsibility, is to make sure every person that works for me comes and goes home in the same condition. Okay, that's my goal. That's my number one goal. Safety. We have a safety first policy, and that
I didn't feel like
that
he
comes from
listened
the
to
top.
us.
No, he's a
I
he's a pawn.
really, I did not feel.
He's
I feel like many other people, even
no,
within the Wu
no.
administration, give respect and listen, and there's an interactive conversation happening, and it really didn't happen with them.
I'm not going to villainize this guy Yasa. Okay,
I'm not villainizing him as
well,
much as
I'm
he had
you
a,
know,
he had a
blaming him or
priority.
whatever. No, it is, and he's a zealot. Okay, is what
That's
you're really
it.
saying.
That's how
He's
I
a
look,
zealot.
yeah.
Okay, but you know something.
The chief of streets
he's a
needs to
pawn,
have a
he's a pawn
balance.
in this game. Okay, the queen. Okay, is making the moves.
As one of your 5 pillars is safety, and the Back Bay Association and I myself personally have worked with the residents of Back Bay around making sure that there was enough timing for pedestrians to legally cross. This bike
Yeah, I
plan
remember you
eliminated,
keep me on to that.
reduced
Yeah.
things like, I think like there would be a crossing at Boylston and Berkeley that was 40 to 45 seconds for a pedestrian to cross. It's now 17 seconds. There's a lot of inconsistency. What makes a neighborhood safe or a city safe is for there to be predictability. So every pedestrian citywide or everybody using the infrastructure citywide says, okay, the light's red, I stop. It's green, I cross. Because of the lack of timing for things and all these different random installations of arrow turns and dedicated lanes and dedicated bus lanes that, on Berkeley Street, it's for one block so that the cars are all migrating around. This has created a lack of predictability and harmed the pedestrian safety.
Have you got any information on the fatality that took place in Copley? And if anything has been done to correct any of the issues there?
That intersection has been a problem for many, many years. When Mayor Menino was in office, there were plans put in place associated with the redevelopment of Copley Place to redo that intersection completely. The intersection, sometimes in the city of Boston, the updating and the changing of infrastructure is dependent on a private development project moving forward. In that specific location, because there's been construction going on in Copley Square, there's a lot of activity having to do with lanes being changed and everything. I go through that intersection every single day, and it is a very unsafe infrastructure. There's not good pedestrian timing. It is, we also have been very concerned about some of the food delivery companies and just their random ad hoc way of circumnavigating the city sidewalks, disregarding
you're saying
streetlights. We think that there needs to
without
be
the
a whole
bike
plan.
lanes, it was a confusing place because you've got an entrance to the turnpike, you have an entrance coming off the turnpike that feeds into Copley Square.
Right.
You've got Boylston Street, you've got St. James Street.
You have the Mass
you
Pike
got the Dartmouth Street, the Mass Pike.
exiting onto.
That's what I'm saying. It's coming in.
Stewart
You
and then coming
you
down
have
Dart.
another one. There's another street on the side. What's the one that goes up towards the Christian Science? What's that street there?
Huntington Avenue.
Yeah, you have Huntington Avenue. Basically, the genesis of that street is right at that is right there. So you've got so without bikes, it was a messed up place.
Right.
I would agree. Okay.
And it is
So
terribly tragic. It's extremely upsetting, and it's not the first time that a pedestrian has died in our neighborhood. And I think I get back to consistency, and it's very important for there to be an implementation of predictable intersections and really make sure that the pedestrian is prioritized.
Part of the planning process, okay, we've already got data. So you go out there and study all the data, okay, as to how many accidents happen, where do the accidents happen. 350, the data we have is 350 bike accidents were reported in 2023. That's the only place we have data for, okay, in the city of Boston, 350. They believe that only 12% of those accidents are reported. So it's 8 times more than that. It's more like 2,500. And the city of Boston, we actually have the video, okay, of this person's of the fatality, okay, because the city and we have them on our website. The city's got hundreds and hundreds of cameras all over the place collecting information from the Boston police, which is good, helps protect us and so forth. And so that data is available. That's part of the planning process. You basically go out and find out what do you got
Absolutely.
here.
It's data-driven.
And that should be basically what should happen. I told that was my premise. What you do first, immediately stop and fix the stuff that's crappy. And how do you do that?
Absolutely.
You don't go and say, well, this one looks bad and that one looks bad. I heard something happened over there.
Everything was based on the bikes.
State Senator Nick Collins knows the streets of Boston. A kid from Southie, Nick has lived and breathed these streets his entire life. The bike lanes were dropped right smack dab in the middle of his district.
It's not that bike lanes shouldn't be anywhere, it's just that they can't be everywhere. And, how do we go about that? So, one of the things that we did earlier this term was submit legislation for consideration. It's had a hearing already in front of the Transportation Committee called an Act Relative to Transportation Safety. And it's effectively trying to mitigate the chaos that has ensued in the streets around the utilization or misutilization of bike lanes, the different types of electric or motorized, what I guess people are calling micro mobiles, and whether it's a motorized scooter or an e-bike or moped, and how they utilize bike lanes and driving the wrong way. So we're trying to do a couple things. One, at a baseline, because this is what we heard out of the hearing, and I think is a concern for people that are older adults and anyone who has people that are vulnerable, whether it's young children or someone who's has disabilities, is that all these proposals should have to be approved by Mass Disability Commission or the local disability commission, because then you're guaranteeing ADA compliance, which these don't have. And one of the most powerful pieces of testimony was someone I think you had on your show recently. It was Professor Fox and his experience in the South End of being hit as a blind resident. We've heard it from other people across the district who have been harmed or have had incidents that are disabled. And so, while we're on that track and hoping to move our legislation out of the Transportation Committee, that would have the element of ADA compliance, have a task force between transportation and public safety officials on how to better enforce existing laws and increase fines.
Every single infrastructure project that ever happened in this country, not just in Boston, but across the country, starts with a master plan, which includes basically a safety review. It includes outreach. I name it as separate pillars because they're so important, but outreach and community involvement. Another reason why the state needs to get involved, because you basically said you cover the whole state. Like, for instance, there should be a signage, okay, on bike lanes that's consistent with you're in Quincy or you're here.
Right.
Just like on the highway, you've got green signs, white letters.
Well, and it's developing all over the state. We've been involved.
And you want to basically have it uniform, okay?
Yeah.
It should be over the country eventually, okay? But there should be uniformity so that people understand it. They know what the exercise. They know it is. They know to break down lanes. They know when you get a yellow line, okay, you can't pass on that, right? A broken yellow line. There's certain things that we know instinctively, well, not instinctively, because we've been brought up around
Right.
it. Okay.
No, and bicycles were a part of everyone's, a lot of people's childhood. But what's changed, even in the concept of the utilization of bike lanes, is who's utilizing them too. As I said, electric bicycles, mopeds are in there going in the wrong direction.
Well, no, there's motor scooters. There's motor scooters. All those delivery guys are gasoline-driven motor scooters.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Some of them are
bike
electric.
lanes,
Okay, and the scooters and everything else.
And they're going in the wrong direction.
How about a registration?
Yeah.
Okay. How about a license? I mean, should a 12-year-old person be able to go in the city of Boston, okay, in these bike lanes, or maybe 12 or whatever? Should they pass some sort of a test that they at least know the rules of the road?
Well, one of the elements of the bill too, an act relative to transportation safety, is that if someone's utilizing these units for commercial purposes, that they get insurance, commercial insurance.
So there's lots of different problems. There's a lot of different reasons to get this thing straightened out. okay? And to basically put your head in the sand is like not the good solution.
Yeah,
We look at this thing as 5 pillars. One is master planning, okay? Really critical. Most major projects take longer to basically plan, okay? And then basically it takes to execute, okay? One. Two, safety. Obviously, safety. You know, there was a person killed up here, okay, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago or so. And no one seems to be really making much of a fuss over that. The bike lane should have been shut down, okay? There should have been something done. It was a dangerous place. I was actually with a columnist, a journalist, on a bike tour. I gave a 5-mile tour of the city and pointed out the good bike lanes, the ones that are okay, but they need to be fixed and improved, and the ones that should be removed, okay? Like take, for instance, what is the part of master planning is how do you roll out a bike lane system? Okay, first of all, you have to start by deciding what the population is, how many people are using it, how many bike lanes do we need? Now, we don't need a east-west connector. You know, Boston is the only grid part of the whole city, and just like in Greek times and Roman times, cities were laid out east and west with the long streets, north and south with the intersecting streets. So north is that way over to Cambridge, south is down where I come from, Quincy. This way you're going to Kenmore Square, and that way you go to Arlington Street. So you've got these, you've got this layout here, okay, and you've got Boylston Street, you've got Commonwealth Avenue, you got Beacon Street, Commonwealth Avenue, Boylston Street. I think Tremont is the next one.
Stewart.
Well, Stewart is a small one. Okay, it doesn't go the whole length of the block, but major thoroughfares. Okay, that connect, you know, the downtown area. Okay, with west, and then you've got Tremont and Columbus. Okay, so right now there's one on Tremont. There's one on Boylston Street. There's one in Commonwealth Avenue. There's one in Beacon. That's 4 of the 5 major arteries. Why do we need 4 east-west connectors? Okay, there. There's no traffic in these things because there's so many of them. Now, the bikers might say, "Well, we don't have to go over a block." Well, I thought you like exercise. You know, listen, you can't have everything. Okay, I would rather have. So, in other words, planning takes into consideration all these sort of things. And how do you roll it out? Okay, should you have, it's not about how many miles, so you can basically get a merit badge, okay, for building, you know, oh, I built 20 miles, I built 15 miles. No, well, how about I built 4 really, really safe, efficient, well-respected areas. And on top of that, what I did after that is I regulated it, I enforced it, I made rules, I kept people safe. You know, so master planning is a big thing. Safety, okay?
Do you want me to talk about master planning for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
My strong recommendation to the city has been to launch a Frederick Law Olmsted quality planning process
Absolutely.
for the bike lane system.
To
look at all of the uses, to all of the locations.
That's not an idea. That's how it's done.
Yeah.
Every major project in this country had a planning process. This is not like unique. Okay, this is a major infrastructure change. You know, look at the Big Dig. I was a major contributor in that. The Greenbush line, I built that. The Boston Harbor cleanup, I drilled the shafts out, not 10 miles out to sea, leveled the island, get rid of the prison, built all the seawalls out there.
It's been transformative, all that you've done.
Every single one of these things.
It really has.
Came with a long period of planning.
The planning captures.
But it's almost like what people say, I got an idea, let's have a planning process. Like you just said right there. When I say that, I say, well,
it has to capture. Let me give you more detail.
But listen, that's what I do for a living. I see that 2020. Everybody else says, well, yeah, I mean, they don't see that because nobody talks about the planning. We should have spent $20 million, okay, designing a 50-year plan. Okay, what do we need for 50 years? That's how it's done. And you basically go to your census, you talk to communities, you get buy-in. Okay, that is a process. It's a well-worn path. Okay, and they don't get it. Okay?
And you need to know where people are going, how they're getting
All
there.
those things.
All the underlying needs.
That's
Are they
all-
commuting? Is it leisure? Are they able to ride a bike? If they're riding a bike, where are they going from to? Connect
That's
it
all
with
master
public
planning.
transport.
Look at
Like
we
there are
can
a
do-
lot of
we
there are a
can
lot
talk-
of pieces,
we can-
and to make it beautiful, to honor the Frederick Law
Absolutely.
Olmsted.
We should
you know,
have should have monumental bike bridges. I mean, there's one in China that's 5 miles long. I mean, why couldn't we have a beautiful? It's like a foley in a way, a beautiful bridge, just like the ones they have down in
Why aren't we looking at connecting the Southwest Corridor with downtown and, Stewart Street into downtown Crossing? There are a lot of things that we could do.
It's a major plan, okay? And what they should do right now, they should go out and take my recommendation. Go and shut down, okay, the ones that are bad. Go and immediately improve the ones that are good, okay? And basically take your merit badge and your award, okay, and your gold medal for the ones that you did that turned out right, okay? It's even a blind squirrel finds an acorn. Okay, so
Things are in motion. Though the mayor is prioritizing her national profile, while commuters, pedestrians, cyclists, and businesses suffer under her infrastructure blunders, Jay Cashman is building a coalition. He's speaking to experts and city leaders, developers, concerned citizens, and politicians acting on behalf of their concerned citizens. Jay Cashman is developing a master plan, and when that happens, big changes are sure to follow. On the next Street Smarts, how Boston's bike lane blunder smothered one of the city's most crucial streets and tarnished the historic Freedom Trail.